We were right. The thief was too fast to hit.
Nice job, McCloud.
Hey, don't forget who kicked your butt on Titania.
You know, if you wanted a good shot of me, you could have just asked.
Oh yeah? I'll put it in your obituary. Unless you hand over those gems you stole, then you can run back home.
These? Thanks for gathering the others for me, but I'll be taking them back now.
These aren't toys. There's more worlds at stake here than you could possibly imagine.
Saving the universe? Is it Tuesday already? I saved the universe in my sleep. I'm taking those emeralds.
Can't let you do that, Hedgehog. Let's rock and roll, boys! Destroy that space elevator! He's not getting away again!
You got it, Fox. We've got this one, Starbucks!
That'll be harder than you think.
Oh, great. Looks like we've got company.
I'll take care of this one.
Eat this!
Hey! I asked for no grenades on this! Man, you're not even fast enough to eat my dust! I think you need to cool off!
Landmaster, cut it in half. Spin the Ferris wheel. Time for a little payback. Come on, Fox, you're off your game.
Oh no.
No! You're mine.
I don't think so. You have any idea what you just did? The people you put in danger?
No one's suffering on my watch, but you're going to regret making me do that. Ha! Slippy, I had to break the gems. Think you can fix them?
I've got one on me!
Fox reporting in. Target is down.
Time break! Let's cut you down to size! Why don't you stick around?
What the heck?
It's not over, Fox. I sense a mighty power.
You ready, Caliburn?
Give it everything you've got.
Let's do this! I guess you were fast enough to eat my dust after all. Now, time to track down those shards.
After 10,000 years, it is finally done! Oh my gosh, okay, not 10,000 years, but this has been going on a long time. And I know that there's a lot of people who thought that this would a massively easy win for Sonic. But to be honest, he narrowly takes this win here, and there's a lot of complex interactions to find a victory. For example, if you look at the stat breakdown, you can see that Fox had a slight advantage. He has more edges and stats than Sonic. Yet we also immediately run into one of the biggest complications for this match. Each character has two pretty distinct forms that they can fight in. For example, Sonic has Supersonic, or his other transformations, and Fox has the R-Wing, or his other ships. And these forms have drastically different stats, so rather than being able to compare the stats directly like we do in most fights, this match is almost like a tag team where the fighters can swap out with a partner. In order to get a grasp on how this fight would play, we need to look at each individual possibility and figure out how each scenario would go. For each little sub-fight, I'm going to break down the stats of each related fighter so we can see what their strategies look like and how it influences the fight overall. First up is base Sonic versus Fox outside of his ship. At this point, Sonic can both one-shot Fox and massively outspeed him. That said, Fox would only need to shoot him one time with one of his one-shot weapons in order to burn through all of his rings. But any of his other weapons are going to barely even tickle Sonic. Now, Fox does have ways to avoid danger here, like the intangibility from his staff or invisibility from his cloaking device, which he's likely to take advantage of to summon an R-Wing. But even if Fox were to line up a clean shot, he isn't likely to let things get to that point without calling in his R-Wing, where he's by far the most comfortable. And when that's mixed with Sonic's general hesitation to kill his opponents, and Fox's several revives, it's pretty likely that base Sonic versus Fox on the ground is always going to convert into base Sonic versus Fox in his ship. Especially because if Sonic doesn't feel threatened by Fox, he's not likely to turn into Supersonic. The next scenario to mention is Supersonic versus Fox outside of his R-Wing. Now this scenario is very, very unlikely to occur. Like I said, Sonic would have no reason to transform against a grounded Fox, and Fox is most likely to destroy the Emerald while Sonic is trying to transform. He's not exactly subtle or quick with how he does this. But if Fox does fight Supersonic, his only hope is to call in an R-Wing, which would be possible because it can form around him, but extremely difficult. And even if he was pulling his punches, it would be pretty hard for Sonic to avoid killing Fox here. Which means that Sonic probably wants to avoid this situation as well, as he generally doesn't like to kill unless he's forced to. So next up we have Supersonic versus the R-Wing. And this situation is also fairly unlikely to occur. For that reason that I mentioned earlier, Fox is very experienced at shooting down glowing artifacts that pop up and circle enemies to make them stronger or attack him. So with his speed, he's fairly likely to be able to get that off. But let's say that he could transform here. This is actually a pretty bad situation for Supersonic. While Sonic can one-shot the R-Wing and is durable enough to tank most attacks from it, when he turns into Supersonic, he's also giving up a huge amount of versatility for raw power. In this form, Sonic is even more of a straightforward fighter than he usually is. He almost exclusively rams headfirst into his enemies over and over and over, and this would be a very bad idea. Fox's ships can automatically apply status effects like time stops or freezing to Sonic on contact. Fox could also activate the Firebird, which would instantly kill Sonic when he's within 30 feet of the ship, regardless of his durability. And even if Sonic could destroy the R-Wing here, Fox has 13 ships that are almost identical in strength and would instantly replace themselves as they're destroyed. When this dynamic is combined with the fact that a rolling attack would be way stronger than anything Supersonic has ever endured, when done at its maximum speed of course, this is a super tough matchup for Supersonic. That said, Sonic does have the advantage that a single rolling attack would be a huge commitment since it would take him across the entire solar system. But when all of these things that I mentioned are combined with Fox's ability to stop time and his own immunity to time stops, things just become much more likely that Supersonic bashes into the R-Wing over and over and then accidentally takes himself out of the fight. So the last scenario comes down to base Sonic versus Fox in the R-Wing. And this is surprisingly not only the scenario that's most likely with this fight, but it's also where Sonic stands the best chance. Surprisingly, base Sonic has a much better chance to take out an R-Wing than Supersonic. Or more accurately, he has enough of an arsenal to be safe from doing so from a distance in a way that prevents Fox from continuing on with his huge arsenal of ships. The R-Wing is too durable for Sonic to meaningfully deal damage to it over and over. And while without rings, the R-Wing would be strong enough to obliterate Sonic with even just a normal hyper laser, Sonic's rings would make him durable enough to survive around 40,000 shots. This means that Fox's only realistic win options here are the same as Supersonic, using the Firebird or the rolling attack. Yet there's some important differences in this fight than the Supersonic fight that makes this much harder on Fox. First off, Sonic is going to be taking damage from anything that Fox does, but it's not going to be meaningful due to the rings, and so Fox would have no method of determining that before he attacks at least 1 or 2 times. But he's also not likely to keep up a useless strategy after Sonic endures a couple of hits, and so this key time in between his first few attacks and when he starts to adapt is absolutely vital for base Sonic, and he can execute on it far more effectively than Super Sonic. While Super Sonic is most comfortable in the air, base Sonic is far more comfortable on the ground, meaning that Fox's rolling attack is going to be really hard for him to use, since he has a very narrow angle of attack that would work without slamming through the planet that they're able to fight on. And even if the R-Wing could endure that, from a moral standpoint, Fox isn't likely to do that unless he literally has no other option. So while Super Sonic and Sonic in his base form are both likely to default to ramming attacks, unlike Super Sonic, base Sonic has other options that he can use to fight without making direct contact. And while touching the R-Wing is still extremely dangerous for Sonic, and due to the fact that Fox doesn't know how many rings he has to burn through in order to do significant damage, he's unlikely to catch on super quickly that his base lasers aren't as effective as he thinks they are. With his experience, he'd probably just think of it as whittling down a health bar. But Fox isn't stupid enough to keep wasting his opportunities. He has a few ways to trap Sonic in time or sap away his speed, but Sonic just has so many ways he can deal with the R-Wing. For example, he can use the Jade Wisp and phase through the R-Wing, grabbing Fox out of his ship, which is probably the most likely outcome here, as it allows a chance for a non-lethal victory, and it would, probably unknowingly to Sonic, get around all of these instant death methods that would happen from touching the R-Wing, especially things like the Firebird. But should he decide that he does need to finish things lethally, which again, he's not super likely to do, he could use things like the Violet Wisp or Ring Time or Detonate, any of which would instantly destroy the R-Wing, and the first two would probably take Fox along with it. Now, this doesn't mean that the R-Wing doesn't have some significant advantages here. For example, it can turn invisible for up to 4 minutes. And Sonic honestly doesn't have a great way to deal with this, but for the same reasons that I mentioned earlier, Fox is likely to waste his first few opening shots on his standard arsenal, meaning that even if he can't see the R-Wing, seeing that these lasers are being blasted from a very specific place gives Sonic that prime window between the first few attacks from the R-Wing and when Fox starts to adapt. Given his superior speed and ways that he can enhance his thinking time, this small period is likely going to be all he needs for Sonic to figure out how to destroy the R-Wing. Overall, this fight is incredibly close. Star Fox as a series isn't talked about super often within the Versus community, but it's a serious threat and Sonic narrowly took the win here. In the end, Fox is a better strategist, and against a slower opponent, he'd be able to end the fight instantly. But between Sonic's speed and his rings keeping him in the game, like I said, he has that prime window to adapt and take Fox out of the fight, along with his high maneuverability that would make it hard for Fox to land his most lethal attack, the rolling attack. But at the end of the day, the Blue Blur's versatility is just too much for Fox to reliably deal with. Sonic is the winner and will be moving on to the next round of the Smash Bracket. Next time on the Smash Bracket.
All right, buddy, let's get you back to your friends. Good boy. This is gonna take a while.
We need your help.